Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt McGachy, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox&Hops podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians to talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. I am super stoked to be hosting the second virtual roundtable discussion in honor of Le Mondial de la Bière. Today, my guests are Patricia Rios of Overhop, Canada, Philippe-Alexandre Gendron, the head brewer of McAuslan Brewing, and Serge Noël, the beer expert. Get ready, everyone. This is the second virtual roundtable discussion in honor of Le Mondial de la Bière in collaboration with Vox&Hops. Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt McGachy, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox&Hops podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians to talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. Today, I am super stoked to be with three amazing people for the second virtual roundtable discussion for Le Mondial de la Bière. Today, I am very lucky to be with Patricia Rios of Overhop, Canada. I am with Philippe-Alexandre Gendron, the head brewer at McAuslan Brewing, and I am with Serge Noël, the beer expert. So since you are the beer expert, and I'm going to let you choose which beers we drink in which order, Serge. For everyone at home that had a chance to go to Peluso Rachel to pick up their 4-pack, we have 4 beers that we're going to be tasting tonight that you guys also have in your hands at home. These are 3, and I have a 4th one that I can somehow make happen somehow nicely. So these are the 4 beers that we will be drinking tonight, tasting tonight, together throughout our chat. In which order should we be drinking these? Should we be tasting these, Serge, in your expertise?
I'd first go with the best bitter, 1759. So I believe it's a really pintable beer. Really easy going down, so it's going to be a nice way to settle in into the discussion. I'd go after that with Philippe-Alexandre's beer, so the New England IPA from St-Ambroise. After that, I'd go with Overhop, Patricia Rios Hazy New England IPA. So I'd go, why I put those 2 in that order, it's just that the Overhop one is a bit hoppier, a bit hazier than the one from St-Ambroise. So I thought it's a nice increase into the taste. So I thought it was the best way to do it. And lately, as a dessert, as it is most of the time compared to the Imperial Stout will be our way to finish this one. Imperial Stout from Beauregard.
That's right. So super stoked to be with you all. Thank you so much for being with me. I am very excited about this. Let's all crack open the 759, the extra special bitter from La Souche microbrasserie. Serge, this is your choice for tonight. Tell everyone at home that's listening and us why you chose this beer. What do you enjoy about it, and why should we be tasting it?
As I said in the intro, well, first let's put. I love English style beer and the classic way they're done. And this is, for me, one of the best reinterpretation of the style that is done in Quebec at this time. There's a few that are done, but for me, that's one of the best there is of that interpretation. Second, it's a easy to drink beer outside of what we usually go for, like Pilsner, that are really trendy right now. This is really easy to drink, and even though it's a bit nutty, it's not too sweety, so you can go for a pint or 2 and it's easy to get down, and the level of alcohol is not too high either, so it's really easy to drink, and it's a beautiful beer.
Absolutely, yes. And you are 100% right about having that pure British style. Clocks in at 4.5%. It is creamy caramel good, really super drinkable. What do you guys think about it? Patty, what do you think about this beer?
I absolutely agree with you. I love La Souche, and I am a great fan of English beers too. It is really well done. I didn't know that. Although I've been to La Souche a couple of times, I fell in love. It's delicious. Great choice.
And you, Philippe-Alexandre?
Oh, I fully agree. You guys hear me all right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. No, so I fully agree. It's it's all the right notes. It has a bit of that sweet caramel goodness behind it without being cloyingly sweet. So that's and it definitely is a session ale, and yeah, it's really good execution on the style. Pretty damn good.
Awesome. Good choice.
I think the whole magic of this one is the balance. As you were saying, Philippe-Alexandre, you do have that caramel taste, but it's well balanced by the bitterness at the end. And you still have it at the end. So you have that mix of that caramel that lingers a bit with that bitterness that is getting in and stays with you, just to give you like the will to go and I want another taste of it.
It's a siren singing.
Yeah, it is.
You can definitely see yourself in a nice little English pub, knocking a few of those back on the rainy afternoon kind of deal. So yeah, no, it's really good.
Absolutely, with those nice hand-pumped ales. Love it. I know who you guys are. I just want to see how you guys have been doing this year. 2020 has been a difficult year for everyone. How have you guys been coping with 2020? Patty, you want to take this up? I know that you guys just opened a whole new facility. How has 2020 been for you?
I guess we're fortunate from one side because we are focused on distribution. So the consumer of our beers did increase. At the same time, with our project of our lives, which is our brewery, we were pretty much affected. First, because of the train strike. The strike of the trains at the beginning of the year. It got our fermenters stopped in Vancouver for like more than a month.
Wow.
And right after that, COVID came and our work had to stop for 3 months. So we are catching up, and I'm sure we're all gonna catch up at some point. But it's been good, a good year. We finally have our house, and we have to do what we can.
It's amazing. I'm super stoked for you guys. You, Philippe-Alexandre, how has 2020 been for you?
Well, it's been a little bit rough, I'm not going to lie. We're luckily enough, we're a very well-established brewery. We've been in business for 30 years at this point. So we had the solid backbone to be able to maintain ourselves throughout the pandemic. And since we distributed pretty much any format that exists, we're good to go for pretty much anything. But it's been, I want to say, arrowing to walk in the brewery and there's only like half the people that are working there that usually be there. We're doing very small volumes, and we're basically just keeping things going, but without producing as much as we usually would be, because, well, even though the bars are open now, even though everything is running, everything's running, but a lot slower. And just so, like, we have for those who are familiar with the McAuslan brewery, we have a huge terrace in the back. It's on the Villachine Canal. Beautiful place. Without pushing myself too much.
No, but it is. You're not bragging. You're not bragging for nothing. It is.
And it's one of the places we can go to. I like to go there just to get contact with the clients and see, like, and talk with people and like, hey, what's your take on the beer? How'd you like it? And it's just, there's so few people nowadays out there that it's just, it's scratched like, I want to say the wrong hitch. It's just, it's not, it's a little bit, I want to say that it's a bit disappointing, but it's part of the things that you'd expect during a pandemic. You know, it's just things that they happen. They're on the negative side. On the positive side, I would say, we've had the opportunity of using that time since we're brewing a lot less to make sure that our team is performing as well as it should be. And everyone is up to par with all the procedures and everything that we need to get going. So that's on the positive side. I would say that this thing that allows us to do is optimize our resources and make sure that everybody's running as well as they should be. So.
May I ask something to both Philippe and Patty? Because I'm thinking about COVID and I need to put in MAPAC. Was MAPAC any rougher than they usually are, or was it business as usual with le ministère de l'Agriculture for you?
Well, for us, we have never dealt with them. It was really just RCG because we don't have a pub. We don't have a pub, so it was RCG, and in fact, it was easier because they gave us a virtual inspection for us to be able to open a brewery.
Okay.
So that's awesome. We have we had a temporary permit to start brewing. So yeah, they finally understood that they can use technology and and they came over a month ago to make sure everything was correct and everything was perfect, and so we didn't have any problem with them at all.
Oh, good.
Amazing. How about you for you, Philippe-Alexandre?
On our side, I would say it was a bit more business as usual, but we did tighten up our measures a lot. And essentially, people that would usually have been working in pairs have been working alone. We're making sure that sanitation is enforced. People are washing their hands. There's a bunch of sanitation stations that we have throughout the plants and things that need to be done. We didn't wait for the government to give us guidelines. As soon as the pandemic hit, we started right away making sure that everything was fine and they were complying with all the rules. It was just, you want to keep, as much as you want to make beer and you want to be able to get the business going, you have to keep your people safe. And that's our biggest, most important thing. At the end of the day, we're a big family, so we want to make sure that everyone is doing, everyone's doing well, everyone's keeping safe.
Absolutely. Number one priority, 100%. Yeah. Beer is number two.
I don't say that often in life, but
let's talk a little bit about how you guys got into the world of making beer and turning beer into your profession. So for you guys as brewers, and for you, Serge, as a beer expert. You go first, Serge. I'm very interested in how you became a beer expert. How did you get onto this crazy craft beer journey?
That's a kind of a funny thing. The oldest of you, and I'm not sure you even know about it, but for a while there was something called SAQ beer. So yeah, there were specialized boutique from SAQ specialized in beer. Really? So they had a full store of imported beer. We're going back about beginning of the 90s, so before I had gray hair. So beginning of the 90s, and there was not that many microbreweries in Quebec. So we were really into searching everywhere in the world for beer, and finally SAQ kind of catch up something there, and they were bringing this to us. And I was back then living in Chicoutimi, and with a friend, we were having every weekend a 10 beer, cheese and pâté and baguette kind of evening. And that's how I developed my taste. And once it started, because I remember drinking my first few beer when I was young, where there was only kind of 10 beer in the dépanneur, and they were mostly all tasting the same, except Porter Champlain and Porter Labatt. And the highest thing was Brador, because it was only 1% more than the other beer. I was so amazed when all those tastes got to me, and I realized suddenly, okay, there's a lot more to beer than what I ever had the chance to taste. And that's what really kind of got me in the way of that. And after that, I had the chance, moved to Montreal, went to Le Mondial de la bière for the first time. I said, hey, I like that thing. That's really nice. Wow. And I went and gave my name as a volunteer. And after a few years, started to manage what we called back then Le Petit Pub. And you have to remember, we're at mid-90s, and still there's not that many microbreweries in Quebec. So a lot of people are coming to Le Mondial because they have a whole booth of imported beer that you can't have on the market in Quebec. So I was managing that place, and from one thing to another, learn more, said I could teach the other volunteers from there to know a bit more about beer, and that's how I started to teach. And after that, I had the chance to learn a lot following courses with Mario Daire, which was the first real beer specialist in Quebec. Really teacher-like and writing books about it. And I had the chance to learn a lot with him, and that's what got me on the way of that, which is I'm still working for the Mondial, and Mondial gave me the chance to meet Patty back in Rio. So beer brings everywhere. And now I'm still working for Le Mondial. I'm giving classes for Alcadémie, which is linked to Alambica. And I'm also doing a beer report on radio every week at FM 103.3 Longueuil. So that's how I got there. And I'm still as happy and having fun and discovering new taste, new beer. But I have to say this, and that's going to be the end. Sorry, I'm loose. That's
it's okay.
We have the chance to be in Quebec, where we have all those influence coming from Europe, coming from the States, and we have the chance to have a really powerful beer culture here now. Even if it's young, it's really powerful, and it's one of the more creative beer culture I've seen through the years, all through what I've tasted, because we have the kind of free thinking of the American, and we also have the influence from Europe, and we mix that, and we're able to go in all kind of direction, which sometimes the American don't do. They'll I'll give you an example. You go in Vermont, you go in a pub, you'll have 8 New England IPA and 2 stouts.
Yeah.
That's all you'll have. No, but that's it. And if you go West Coast, most of the time, you'll have a few places that will do sour or things like that, but they're not all over the place as we are in Quebec. So it's a fun time to be a beer lover in Quebec.
Absolutely. And I like that transition over how you met Patty in Rio at the Mondial in Rio. So Patty, take us on your craft beer journey, please.
Oh my God, it's been so fast, so intense. I always loved beer. It was always my passion, and I also always loved cooking. And I drink everything, but my husband just drinks beer, and I was buying craft beer to pair with the food I was cooking and bringing it home. And then we were collecting the bottles. When I realized I had a whole wall of bottles and I made the count, I said, okay, I spent a lot more than what I thought. I'm like, okay, let me learn how to make it. Then I can, I don't need to spend that much money. So I started like that with a group of friends brewing. And there was Mondial de la Bière in Rio. And we decided to bring our beers to Mondial to test the market. So that's when our group of friends, so it's 3 guys in Brazil and my husband and I, at that moment, we created Overhop, the brand, and we did contract brewing, and we brought 4 beers to Mondial de la Bière in 2016 in Rio. And it was just for fun, a hobby. We all had our jobs and we had no intention to have a microbrewery in life. Yes. And we got 2 medals at that Mondial with Hazy, which was a new style at that moment. The New England IPA, nobody had it in Brazil. And with Dark Hop, again, the same thing. It was a hit. Nobody had a black IPA. I remember my friends saying, oh my God, you're going to release a black IPA. I never had that before. And anyways, we got 2 medals with that. And at that moment, I was moving to Canada already with my husband. We had a project to come to Canada to raise our kids, to move, to start a new life. And when we met the guys from Mondial, they were like, everybody that gets medals here in Rio, we invite them to go to Montreal to expose in the Petit Pub. And that's when we were like, okay, so why don't we have our own pub, our own booth, and then we test the market there. And if it works there, we see what we do. So that was it. There was no business plan when we went to Mondial de la Bière. It was really fun, and having our friends over, because we were home brewing, and we were taking our beers to competitions of home brewers. because it's allowed in Brazil. We have huge homebrew competitions in the street. And we were getting all the medals, so people knew us. And that's what we did. When we imported all the beers, it was, oh my God, it was a nightmare because it came through SAQ and we had to send the beers 3 months before, and they were on a hot warehouse, and some of them developed wild yeast. And some of them exploded. We were super concerned when we were about to serve the beers, but everything ended up perfectly fine. We sold out in the 5 days of festivals. We met so many people. And that's when we met people from McAuslan. They were starting brewing too. They had just started. They had just had Shelton. They had a super small tent, but we met everybody. And then we started talking, and we had a chance to start contracting brewing with them, right? But we lived in Toronto at that time. When we moved to Canada, we moved to Toronto, and we were like, okay, what are we gonna do? But anyways, we decided we tried to brew in Toronto too. We did brew for 3 years too, but it's a very complicated market. I don't want that again. By coincidence, 1.5 years after we were in Toronto with the brewery here too, my husband was invited to work in Montreal. And we didn't think twice. We came, we said, I want to live in Chambly, because we have been to the festival. We came to the festival in Chambly. We found a house, we bought it, and now we have our brewery in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu. But it was a long road. Man, it's I have to have a whole podcast to talk about it, but je ne regrette rien. It's
unbelievable.
It's amazing. I'm living the dream.
Your life has been dictated by beer. It's really amazing.
Yeah. And I tell people I have to teach myself, am I really my own boss? What time is it? 9:30? Do I really have to taste hazy at this time? Yeah, it's fine. It's amazing.
Crazy. On that note, we're going to continue with Philippe-Alexandre, but we're also going to switch gears and go with his brew. So introduce this beer, please.
That's our New England IPA from McAuslan Brewing, obviously. I would say this batch specifically is one of the better ones that we've done. That beer, we've been developing it for a while. It's been several jumps back and forth, and we redesigned the recipe. We've had a few pitfalls. Initially, then that is from before I started working with David at McAuslan. They used to think that, anyone can brew a New England IPA. It's a hazy beer. How hard can it be? Let me tell you, it's a lot more complicated than it sounds. I think this beer was redesigned 4 or 5 times. With every time we were trying different things, changing the ion balance in the mash, changing the protein content, the hops, when to dry hop, when to put the hops in the whirlpool, what to do with it, at what temperature. It's been a bit of an adventure. I'm not gonna lie about it. But then you end up having that all that juicy goodness in the can if you have that grapefruit pineapple taste, and it's just generally pretty damn good. I think I like it.
Awesome.
But again, it's my own thing, so I'm pretty happy about it. Yeah, cheers.
Cheers. And everybody that's watching at home, let us know what you think in the comments. It smells tropical juicy goodness.
But it's, first thing, fresh hops.
Yes.
It's surprising how it smelled of fresh hops.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
good. Yeah. A little bitter bite. Delicious. What do you guys think at home? Let us know in those comments. Keep going with your brewer story, how you got into working in the world of beer, Philippe-Alexandre.
Oh, that's that's quite the story, actually. I'm from a scientific background. I did a bachelor's degree in biochemistry at Hunter University. I graduated in 2014, I believe, if I recall correctly. And one night I was coming back, I was gearing up for grad school at that point. I was just trying to figure out, okay, which professor do I want to work with? What do I want to do? What do I want to get a deeper dive into. I had a really, really long day at university, back into 16 hours doing mass spectrometry. Nothing was working properly. I was done. I stepped by the depanneur and I was on my way home, grabbed a mixed pack of St-Ambroise. Sort of a bit of a foretelling right there. I get back home, open that pack, start drinking a couple beers. As I'm just sipping on that double IPA, which is the first time I had ever had it, sort of had the epiphany. I was like, you know what? This is what I want to do in life. This is what it's about. I can brew beer. I can do science. I can make beer. What's wrong with that? So that one night, I ended up teaching myself how to brew, ordering a bunch of stuff off of Amazon, finding friends to brew with, and started my home brewing stuff. Basically. And the weeks that followed. Following that, I finished my degree in biochemistry because I figured I'm not going to throw 4 years of my life down the drain, and then found a job after a little while as a brewer. Sorry about that. I apparently have a cat that decided to join the talk there. So I ended up landing a job with Gabriel Dunon at a Beauregard, so brasseur, which I worked for 4 years and a half or about, as a brewer and a filter operator. That's basically where I learned everything about the industry. I'm grateful I learned that job. It's one of the best schools one can go to learn about how to make beer on the industrial scale, basically. And then ended up landing the job that I have now as a head brewer for McAuslan, working with Dave Brophy, which has been a huge name in the industry in Quebec the last 30 years. So yeah, that's basically where I am now.
That's awesome. And McAuslan is 100% responsible for my early journey through craft beer. They also a mixed pack, but a different one with the pale ale, the two Griffons, and the apricot one. That was my early craft beer discovery mixed pack, and I drank quite a few of those.
The oatmeal stout is still a classic and
100%.
still as good as it was back then. And every once in a while, I try to go back to classics like that. And I had the chance to taste one a few weeks ago, doing a onion soup, and that's the beer I'm using for that. So it's still as good as it was, and it's still as enjoyable as it was. So even and that's something about the market we're living right now, and I'm just jumping on that. We're a lot living on new stuff. It needs to be a new beer. And I'm sure Patty and Philippe-Alexandre, you're feeling the pressure of it, trying to bring new beer all the time because there's been a switch something like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. There's been a switch where people just want new beer, and they have the feeling that if a brewery is not bringing new beer, they're not doing nothing at all. So it's good to go back every once in a while to a classic like that and find that it was good back then, and it's still as good, and it's still on spot.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you.
Let's you also. Sorry to interrupt.
Go for
it. The oatmeal stout is still brewed exactly the same way as it was all these years ago. We haven't touched the recipe. We haven't changed anything, and our point is that we must make it the same every time that we brew it. Otherwise, what's the point?
And we all appreciate that. It's delicious. Switching gears into Le Mondial, Serge, you told us about your first time at Mondial. Patty, you told us about yours. Philippe-Alexandre, what was your first memory of going to Mondial de la Bière?
Oh, that's from several years ago. I remember going there. I didn't really know much about it. I had a few friends that were a lot into craft beers and everything, and they're like, you need to come with us. You got to come visit with this thing. And I was like, okay, cool, we'll go see what it's all about. I ended up, I think I spent most of my Mondial at the kiosk that, I think it was Maitre brasseur that it was called, they had over there. And it was just beer after beer. Everything was phenomenal. It was just, when you've been drinking, I don't want to say bad beers, but stuff that's more on the ordinary scale, and you hit Maitre brasseur, Unibrew, and all the smaller guys back in those years, which are not by any means small, and now there's lots of some of them don't exist anymore, but that's part of the story. It's just the Mondial for me has been an amazing experience as to discovering new things, seeing what other people do, and basically, Yeah, that's about it. I ran out of gas a little bit there, but what I meant to say by that is this is like the Mondial has been personally one of the first festival that I've ever been to. Before I went to Chambly, before I discovered the other things that are going around in Quebec now, and it's kind of been the gateway into a massively expansive world that keeps every year we keep adding more stuff. We keep new beers, new breweries, especially in the last couple of years. I'm looking at the stuff that Patty does. 5 years ago, we wouldn't have not thought about that. Like that didn't exist. An Hazy New England IPA. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
You know,
it's a beautiful evolution, but it is important to go back and appreciate the roots. What was your guys' reaction? Obviously, it had to happen, and it's sad when Mondial announced that they were finally canceling this year's event. Patty, what did you think about that?
It's super sad because I know how hard everybody works, the girls and the guys, and I know how hard, how much soul they put into the festival. It's their lives, and it's our lives too, right? And it's super sad. I'm very sorry. I'm really glad that they're doing at least this roundtables with you, and we can talk about it because I don't know. I hope next year, with life goes back to normal, but for Mondial and all the other festivals, that's so unfortunate.
Absolutely. How about you, Serge, who's directly involved in it?
It's something really sad for me because I've been there. I've been at Le Mondial for the last 17, 18 last years. So in close to 20 years, that's going to be the first year in my life where there's no Mondial. So there's kind of a hole there. There's something really strange for me because it was kind of a time of the year. There's Christmas, there's New Year's Eve, and there's Le Mondial. And it did not happen this year. So, and it's even, and I'm thinking about the team, as Patty is saying, they're working a lot to put this on. So people don't realize how much work it is to put a fest like that. And they had to, and remember, they're doing one in France, they're doing one in more than one. They now have 2 or 3 in Brazil. They have two in Brazil, and one in France, as I was saying. So everything kind of fell apart at the same time everywhere. So I'm thinking a lot about that. For me, it's sad because it's some kind of enjoyment, but I have beer is a sideline for me, kind of. So it's not my whole life, but for them, it's their whole life. So it's kind of sad in me that they have to go through this, and it's out of their hand. They have no control on it.
Absolutely. Everyone at home, give Le Mondial some love in the comments and give them some praise and some support. How about you, Philippe-Alexandre? What do you think about the sadness of them having to cancel this year's event?
Well, obviously, I was saying a bit earlier, the Mondial comes with a bunch of memories and a lot of history behind it. So not having it for a year is a bit of a disappointment. Obviously, everybody's a bit of a bummer, but given with everything that's going on in the world, obviously, I think that was the right decision to make. Now, I fully sympathize with Serge's feelings about this because it's obviously all the people are impacted. The people that directly work to try and get that event going. It's a gut punch at the end of the day. They don't really get there to do their job. They don't get to do what they like to do, which is, I guess, organizing an event of that size all the way across around the world. For us as brewers and as people that will go to these events to present our stuff, it's great because we get contact with the people. You get to see in their face, hey, do you like this? What's your take on the beer? Like, how do you like it? But for the people that are behind all of that, if they don't get to organize that event, it's like their livelihoods are impacted for sure. And it's you can, as much as you can push it to next year, it becomes also a question of, sure, but what if it keeps going next year? It doesn't really answer there's a bit of anxiety that's coming on along with that, I guess, and it's not something that you want to have to live with. But yeah,
everything's going to go well. Go for it, Patty.
Yeah, I was gonna say, some people say festivals are like, getting old, just the same formats everywhere and stuff. But seriously, I got 2 employees now. One is from Vermont, and the other one used to work. Gabriel. He used to work at a macro brewery for all his life, so they don't really know the Quebec market, and it's the easiest way for you to taste everything that there. To get to know all the breweries, to taste a little bit here and there and everywhere, and it's if you decide to do it, paying like for every year, it's just impossible. And that I feel very sorry that we don't have the chance this year to meet our friends and get to introduce our people to everybody.
Absolutely, and I was just about to say that during the last virtual roundtable, a lot of discussions came up about seeing friends and seeing other brewers that you haven't seen in quite a while, because breweries are spread out all across Quebec and across the world, and they all come to Mondial. And it's sort of like a little bit like of a summer camp reunion where you get all back together and have a good time together, and everyone's looking forward to that. Tell me about where you guys typically gravitate during the Mondial. Where do you hang out? Where are you normally located during a Mondial de la bière, typically? Go for Serge. So you're normally working, so you're busy.
Usually, depending on the year, I'm either doing a conference. Most of the time, I'm doing beer and cheese tasting. I had a few years where I did beer and song pairing. I was playing with my small trio, the Beer Blues Band. So that's it. That's mostly, and when I'm not doing that, most of the time I'm serving at Le Petit Pub and doing as much advice and counseling, if I could say. Not counseling, that's not the right word, but well, at some point later in the night might be some counseling, but that's another story. That's so. Just helping people pick up beer and having them trying new stuff that they haven't tried, or going in direction that they never thought that they would go to.
And if your blues trio is ever busy, maybe Cryptopsy could help out. Just in case, if you're booked. I'm just putting it out there. How about you, Philippe-Alexandre? Where do you hang out typically at Mondial?
That's hard to pin down, actually, because I tend to run around a lot. When you're a brewer or a head brewer, you kind of, whenever you're in a festival, especially the Mondial, because everyone's there. So you run around, you talk with everyone, and you drink 3-4 beers left and right, because people are like, hey, you need to try this. Hey, you work with this guy? Hey, like we've designed this inspiring from this recipe. So like, try that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It's always a little bit hectic, and it's a huge energy that you get from just meeting everyone and seeing everything that needs to be that's out there, So it's hard to pin down exactly where I would be if the Mondial was to take place, today, for instance. But definitely I'd be running around and trying to see everything and meet everyone and talk with everyone. So I could probably surprisingly enough, finish the evening with the mouth pretty dry and just trying to reach a glass of water or something.
Very important to hydrate all the time, people. Always drink water, people. How about you, Patty?
Well, I can say it's definitely where the life of the brewers are a little bit glamorous. It's during the festivals, because we do give lots of interviews. We talk to the public, right, Serge? We go there to the stage and we present our beers, and we talk to radios, to TVs, and we get to meet famous people, and that's where our collabs are born too. Our first collab with Aritana was because they were our neighbors at Mondial de la Bière, and we were able to release the beers here and in Brazil. So I work like crazy in the booth, but I also party like crazy too. There are parties every night after parties. We go to other breweries and we go soupy at 12, and it's so fun.
It's awesome.
And you're right. All the off Mondial evening were wonderful, and I've seen a lot of people enjoying them a lot. Yeah. I've seen them the morning after also.
You know what? Because Mondial is in Brazil, Our second beer, Mondial beer, we brought 30 friends from Brazil. It was like a whole bus, and they spent the 5 days here. It was like a carnival here. Literally, it was so fun.
That's amazing.
Matt and Philippe-Alexandre, if you have the chance to ever go to le Mondial de la bière in Rio, that is something. No, but honestly,
Definitely going to try, but
but it's something. Just picture. I've seen a few places where. Remember that Brazil is a big country, so here we're working a lot on the size of Quebec as a market. Some are able to go outside, but for Brazil, they have what's the population in Brazil? I don't know.
170 million.
Well, there you are. So that's the market you have to sell your beer. So I've seen a few booths that are something like $25,000 in building the booths there. Just to see the booths of the brewer, that's something. It's 3 warehouse long, and you go from one warehouse to another to meet the brewers. It's honestly, the last time I was there was 3 years ago, I believe, one of the best fests I've ever been.
Wow.
I had so much fun. And Brazilian are the nicest people I've ever met.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that because you're there, but you're
This is the first time I came here. I'm like, why didn't we choose Quebec first? Seriously.
On that note, Patty, we're going to transition into your hazy. So everyone at home, get your hazies ready. Start cracking those open, pour them out. Patty, tell us about this award-winning beer that you started making a hazy before hazies were hazy. I want to hear that story.
Yeah, we started making hazy in 2016 because one of our friends, which is the brewer in Brazil, Rodrigo Barufa, he traveled to Chile. He met a guy that had been to Vermont and brought him the yeast.
Really?
But the guy was a home brewer too. So he came back home and brewed a hazy. That's how it started. But well, I guess he used just all the famous hops at the moment, and it worked out pretty well. So this one goes Zitus, Citra, Mosaic, and Galaxy. So it's 50 IBU. And this is by far our best seller. And I guess the label helps a lot, right?
It's super badass.
Yeah.
I remember when it showed up.
Your whole labeling, I love the way that it's really corporate. We see the Overhop signature all through all your labeling.
Yeah, we try. Our artist is amazing, Walter. He really gets the idea that we pass to him. He's the soul of Overhop. He feels he's not part of the group, but he feels really like he belongs. Like Overhop belongs to him. You know, he took it for him as his personal project. So this beer was canned just last week, the 2nd September. Right, I think the one that I sent you.
Amazing.
September 2nd. So for some prefer to drink it right after it's canned. We think it's best like 3-4 weeks after it's canned, but it's really good 1 month, 2 months. It's still very good. We're brewing it in small batches and releasing every 2 weeks in our brewery. So we're pretty happy with the results, but as Philippe-Alexandre was saying, it's very complicated, like to adjust water, to adjust the salt, and to understand the best parameters. It's not piece of cake.
It's a science.
Was it hard to transfer the recipe from what you had in Brazil to your new brewery in Quebec?
We sometimes when we don't have we can't find the same hops, we do adjust.
Okay.
Because hops are hard. Some hops are hard to find. Like Galaxy sold out for the next 2 years.
Holy shit! Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so we do some other combinations that kind of give the same profile of the most noble hops. But sometimes we have to adjust. Same thing for them over there. If we make a recipe here that they want to release there, they are free to adjust a little bit. It's not a big deal.
Absolutely. And this beer is night and day from the contract Ashlag version, which is no disrespect to Ashlag, but it's completely different.
I do agree.
It shows that it's your beer and not your beer brewed by somebody else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah, that's it.
We are
That emotional connection is right there.
Yeah. We are very grateful for Ashlag for everything they did to us. We'll never forget that. They together with Mondial, Ashlag allowed us to grow in Canada, in Quebec. So, and we're still there with 4 of our beers because we have lots of cans. So once they are done, we're going to brew everything in our house. We don't even have the capacity to brew all of them yet in our house because we don't have all the fermenters we plan to have. But they're super competent, and everybody has issues, but they allowed us to build our financials to get a loan to invest in our brewery. So it's super grateful for that.
Absolutely. Serge was bringing up earlier the transition in the craft brew market away from flagship beers. Now, I find it interesting that I'm speaking to 2 people that still brew flagship beers. So what are your opinions about that? And what do you guys think about this new wave of just dropping new beers all the time and not just getting married to a particular product in general? Go for it, Philippe-Alexandre. Take that.
Boy, that's a pretty damn good question. I'd also, I don't want to get stuck in the corner here. On a personal level, I must admit that I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that because I might be a bit old school in my habits. I like a few beers and I drink those beers at home on a regular basis. But as a brewer, it's a challenge because we always have to reinvent ourselves and find new recipes and find new things to either match what the market's doing or try and get a little bit ahead of it. And sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss, sometimes things don't necessarily line up. The second challenge that comes with that too is to make sure that beer is good. Say the McAuslan Pale Ale, the St-Ambroise Pale Ale that we've been brewing for 30 years. We know what's going to happen when we put it in an open top fermenter. We know exactly how it's going to turn out. We know it like inside and out. If I tried to do, and the first time we tried to do an England IPA, it didn't turn out that way at all. And trying to do that, and that's why I'm sort of amazed by all this because I've only worked in fairly large breweries or well-established ones. So I'm amazed with the guys like Patty that are just starting, or they're starting there on a smaller scale, and they're able to turn out amazing products back and forth, and no problem whatsoever. It shows the craftsmanship right there. And I would say like that's my biggest thing about this is that it challenges the brewer not only to like brew things right, but make it right every time. And if you don't have that many trials to do it, and then the market's going to shift to something else, you better get it right the first time.
Absolutely, yes. What about you, Patty?
I think there's a market for everybody. Our focus was always to be an accessible brewery. We want to reach groceries. We want to be the choice for the families, for the housewife, for the dad that goes to the market and this is my beer. I don't want to miss it every time I go to the market. I want to have it every weekend. And so I think it's okay for smaller brewers. There's for the guys that are the hype now. I love them. I am a beer geek. I do go to the different arts and I get my exclusivity beers from those guys because I love it. But I think there's a market for us too. I think there's a lot of people. that's what we see, right? We have a good demand, and we wanted to supply this demand, and that's why we still believe on flagships. We do have one fermenter of 10 hacks that we try to have exclusive bags just for the breweries, and that's where we put all of our souls and creativity in. But still, we will not end our flagships because there is a trend of new things every week.
How about you, Serge? How do you feel about the end of flagships?
To be honest, I have a mixed feeling about it. Because all through the evening, I was coming back to classics I've tried and I still like. and I like to bring those back because for me, if you're doing a good beer, it needs to be a beer that will last. True the trends, through everything that comes. That's how it shows it's a good beer. But at the same time, as I was saying, there's so much creativity in Quebec beer culture and in the breweries we have here. You can't expect to restrain that into a few beer that will always be the same. I believe the hardest part of it is to find the balance there. And that's the worst part of it. Because I've seen, and let's be honest here, I've seen breweries that are usually good just going to trends and getting beer so fast that sometimes that's sad, but the quality was not there. And I've seen breweries where there's so many beers in their lineup that I'm sorry, but you can't keep up with the quality with so many beers at the same time. You just can't keep up. So I'd rather go smaller, make sure that what you do is good, and go with kind of seasonal beer where you'll be able to explore and have different things. So you don't restrain your creativity, but you're making sure that you have good beer. Also, I'd like to say, and that's also a bit of what Philippe-Alexandre said when he was talking about Overhop. I believe that a good brewery, even though if it's new, if they're bringing good beer to the market, they'll make their place. And I've seen a few. I don't want to throw names, but I've seen a few coming out of nowhere, and wow, they're good. And 5 years later, they're still good. And you've seen a few. They're on a hype. They get on a trend. They have a few good beers because they're on the trend. But after that, you see that they're fading away because they were not able to do anything that trend at that time. Mm-hmm. So I believe one of the best way to see if you last through the year, usually it's because you're able to do good beer and good quality beer with constant quality. And that's, for me, something really important. And Philippe-Alexandre really pointed that when he talked about the oatmeal stout. It's still the same recipe. It's still as good. I remember everyone getting a beer. Okay, now I'm talking about something that happened to me at Le Mondial. There was a beer I was presenting that I used to drink. And I did the worst thing I can do in my line of business. I described the beer before tasting it.
Oh, no.
Yes, I did. Because that was a beer I was drinking usually, and I had it for something like 5 years and never knew that the brewery decided to change the recipe. So it was a white beer that was usually really into citrus, a bit orange taste. It was really something that I like. And suddenly from there, a year later, they turned into ginger. But there was nothing, nothing said, we renewed the recipe, we changed the recipe. They just decided that they changed it. And And I was there describing a beer, and people were looking at me with those,
what are you talking about?
what is he saying? And then while I was describing, I kind of drank the beer and suddenly I realized what I did. I learned something that time, believe me, but also learned something about the brewery where you don't change a beer if it's good, first, and second, without telling it to your customer. Because if they were buying a beer that they liked and suddenly it changed and you don't have any advice, you don't know about it, you might lose a lot of people. And it's not talking about constants in what you're doing.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. With all that being said, what is hype and what is the next beer style, in your opinion? How does a brewery get hype? Me being, a musician, I'm constantly trying to release consistently good music. I'm searching to better my career, stay relevant. So that I see that goes hand in hand with being a brewery. But what is hype? Why are certain breweries totally caught up in hype, and how do they get the hype? And is it tied into what new styles? Is that really what it is? What do you guys think, Philippe-Alexandre?
I would say, you got the good questions tonight. Yeah, it's that's a pretty right one right there. I would say the notion of hype comes partly from novelty, from you're putting stuff on the market that people have not really had before, that they don't know what to expect, or that they're going to have the wow factor, like, oh my god, this is so good, or this is so new, or I have never had this. Like, what is this? I think one of the sort of team that we're seeing, but they're still on the market now. There's still three big teams, I would say, that even if you're looking as to what's going to create some hype, you're coming back to those roots. It's going to be the IPA. The IPA is sort of the king on the throne for craft beer as a general in North America, but even abroad. And nowadays, it's the hazy IPA that's taking all the space. Everyone's talking about it. As soon as somebody will read this as a new one, it's a new hazy IPA. We're going to try it. And it's just bringing people to try that beer because they know what to expect, but they're waiting to be amazed. Sours are also doing fantastic, and they're fantastic. Let's be real here. It's super easy to drink. It's something that it's going to surprise your mouth every now and then. You're just like, hey, oh wow, okay, that's got a bit of a punch more than you expect it to be. And I'm not sure how I feel about those, but they call them the slushies or the fruit beers that are loaded with
fruit puree. Yeah,
fruit puree, exactly. I know that's creating a ton of hype online, and people are showing pictures, and just people are trying to get them. I'm not sure how I feel about those, but I know they're the next big thing, and it shows that people are trying to. The notion of hype is really generated around novelty. It's about going to what other people are not doing and just making it your own thing. And yeah, so it's, I guess that's that. To me, that's what hype is. Now it comes with its own challenges of how do you maintain that, but you've always had to do something new. So you're kind of locking yourself into a pattern, but you always have to innovate more. And that can lead to a bit of, as a professional brewer, I can tell you, it leads to a little bit of, like you sort of dry out after a little bit. The imagination well is not infinite. And then is when you start thinking about, hey, well, let's go back to our classics. Let's try and do things that we were doing before that worked well. Let's just go back to those, because if you're brewing them right, they haven't gone to doing bad beers. It's just not what the big market's out there.
And what would be, in your opinion, the next big style?
It's hard to say, actually, I think, because as much as I want to say, I don't think we're through the wave of the New England IPA. I think it's still, I think we're still pretty much in the middle of it. That it's not gone, it's not going anywhere, and it doesn't want to be dethroned. So that's still something that's going to stick around for a while. I would say the one thing that's pushing a little bit and is trying to get there is the maybe not as much as in beer, but in the beverage and the alcoholic industry, I know that hard seltzers are becoming a thing that people are pushing really, really hard for. But I'm in touch with the Master Brewers Association of America, and everyone's talking about that online all the time. You see where that goes, but I know that's something that's coming up as well.
Yeah, low carb. People want those low carb drinks. What about you, Serge? What is hype, and what is the next big style?
First thing I need to say is that, okay, without talking, we have a discussion, we have 4 beer, and we have 2 New England IPA out of 4 beer. So that says something. So I'd say we're still in the middle of that New England IPA kind of thing. We moved away from the West Coast. Every once in a while, we see a West Coast coming out, but we're more into the New England IPA, maybe because we're close to Vermont, maybe because we're good at brewing it. I've seen I've seen the sour came, but it's been a bit of a hype, but it's still in French because it's not always like easily drinkable. You have, it's an acquired taste, and once again, for those, I'm also into classic. And to be honest, when I have the feeling that I'm drinking a glass of gastric acid, sorry, but that's not for me. And if you're just happy to say, oh, it's really, it's sour, no, you've done nothing. But that's the same thing as for a while it was the hoppier beer that could be.
Highest IBU.
Yeah, that's it. So it's the same thing for me. It's the same thing. But I'd say I kind of have the feeling that it's coming, and it's also for me a sign of a matured brewing capacity, but knowledge also is going back to good Pilsner. Because doing an Imperial Stout, doing an Hazy IPA, it's hard to do a good one, but it's so strong. You have so much chance to hide the defect in the beer with those that it can hide a few things. But a good Pilsner, you have a defect, you'll know it right on. You need to be perfect to get a Pilsner out. So I believe we're up to that matured and the knowledge to brew good beer. And my feeling is that we're going slowly into that. We won't leave all the other. The New England IPA will stay. Those are good beer for a lot of people that don't want to go too much into bitterness and want that really aromatic kind of feel to beer. So we brought a lot of people to beer with Hazy New England IPA. But I believe the next step will be really into Pilsner. That's my feeling about it.
Awesome. And I am on the same page. Crispy 2020, one of the great things that happened in 2020. On that note, we're going to move to the darkness.
Let's walk on the dark side.
Yes. This is my choice, of course. Stout Impérial from Beauregard, Brasserie Distillerie. I love Beauregard. I love everything that they've been doing. They have really cool dark beers. They only make dark beers. They have missed the mark with a few of them for me, but all of their pure dark beer stouts I've loved. I have not had this one, but I'm stoked to share it with all of you and everyone at home. Crack this one open, pour it out, let us know what you think in the comments section. We're going to tell you what we think about it coming up really soon. I love Beauregard. They only make dark beers.
And you know, when I was talking about new breweries that come out of nowhere and right straight from the bat, they have good beer and they're recognized as being able to make good beer from the start. Beauregard is one of those examples. I'm using that because we're tasting one of their beer, but it's one of those examples. And their DDH Black IPA is quite good also.
Very interesting brew. Very, very interesting. This is great though. Chocolatey, yeah.
Ooh.
Noisette, delicious. Some hazelnuts. Yeah.
mocha coffee.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
Woo. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but it smells amazing because they have all the barrels just out near the tasting room. Absolutely amazing. You're always very well taken care of, and by Cedric, who's absolutely amazing that works there. Patty, what is hype, and what is the next style?
Well, for me, hype, what I understand is hype is first a scarcity. The beers you cannot find, they're so rare, you need to have it. Design and good beer, because you need to have the three. Right? That if you have just the beer, it's not going to be hype. Just the design, neither. And if you have available everywhere, same thing. To beat the hype, you need to be the lucky one that got to buy it. That badge that you're so proud that you got it. I go for it. I love it. When I go to Tits Pet in Saint Jean, I'm like, and I see the truck of the brewery outside, I'm like, oh yeah,
it's my turn.
Yeah, it's fun. And the next style I've been hearing for 3 years now, Pilsners are going to be the next hype, and I still think we are in the middle of the IPAs. I don't only think, I've heard from the marketing research that it's being done by professionals that IPAs are it's growing, still growing. They're the biggest style in the craft beer, the biggest demands, they're the best sellers, and it's still growing. You see the curve. So as much as I wanted it to be Pilsners, we do have some lagers in our menu waiting to be released.
Awesome.
I still think we're in IPA. So
Matt, if you give me the chance, because I'd like to kind of jump on what on something Patty said. Difficulty to get a beer. Sometimes there's a hype, and I won't name any brewery once again, but there's some brewery and some beer geek, and we need to name them the beer geek part of the brewing crowd, the beer crowd. Sometimes they'll only say, oh, it's hard to get, so it's a good one. Sometimes it is, and I'll for once I'll name one. I'll talk about Oval, which is really a good brewery, but I'll never talk about Oval anywhere because nobody will be able to get them anyhow. So what's the point in doing that? And I'm not talking about. I'm not saying that their beer is not good. Contrary to that, they are a really good brewery. But as someone who's talking about beer, for people who want to try some, what's the point for me to talk about a beer that nobody will be able to taste? Mm-hmm. What's the point for me for that? So I do agree with Patty, like that beer need to be available. If it's not available, what's the point of creating a hype of, okay, I was there. I'm the first one who got the first 6 bottle. I waited for half a day or 2 days in my tent to get the first 6 bottle. No, sorry, I don't do. And honestly, I don't do that. And no, that's not the point. What's the point? My point is to talk to the more people possible and spread the love of craft beer to everybody. And that's not how we do it. Like what we're saying and talking to those as being like the beer, we're saying to all the people you don't know and you'll never get there. Mm. That's not what we want to say. That's not the message we want to send. We want to say to the people, craft beer is available, it's good, it's easy to drink, and you can get it and you can have it and you can share it with your friend on a Friday night.
It's not an exclusive club.
Yeah, that's it.
Mm. We'll wrap this up with a classic. I have to ask it. It's Vox and Hops. Have you guys ever listened to metal music? And if you have, what bands were you guys into? We'll start with Patty. I know the answer already, but I'm not sure everyone else does.
I go to Smith Sepultura, right?
Of course.
Yeah, and Nervosa that you introduced me to.
Yes, they're great. I played with them a few times.
Became a fan.
Awesome. How about you, Philippe-Alexandre?
I'm actually a huge metalhead.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Super cool.
I'm more on the power metal side of things, so stuff like Blind Guardian. If I look in the European side, probably one of my favorite bands ever. Actually, I saw them in concert. Saw the same concert 3 times, but just going around for it. Otherwise, what else? Thinking about anything else that's not that. It's not. I like Ghost a lot, but it's not necessarily. It's a sort of hard rock, rockabilly sometimes too. But they have their metal sources too. So
metalheads love Ghost. No shame loving Ghost. They are the ABBA of extreme metal.
I love it. I love the way you say
it. Yeah, it's a really good take on it.
That's awesome. That's super cool. Good to hear that. And you, Serge, have you ever gotten into metal?
I'm more into folk and old prog from 70s, 80s. But I have to say there's a few, it's more, you'd say mainstream metal, but I have to say that Maiden did a few ones that really got to me. I still love to hear Ace's Eye. I love the whole beat to it and the story to the song. Yeah. So, but I have to be honest, I'm not like the metal type, but every once in a while there's a good one and it gets to me. And that's one of the one I do remember and I still like.
That's awesome. Serge, Philippe-Alexandre, Patty, thank you guys so much for being a part of the second virtual roundtable for Le Mondial de la Bière. I am super stoked to have been with you. Let's give a massive cheers to everyone that's watching at home right now, and a massive cheers to the whole Mondial de la Bière team for helping set this all up and persevering and doing a whole bunch of cool stuff virtually, even though the festival can't happen. Massive cheers to all of you.
Yes.
Thank you for having us, Matt, tonight. That was really interesting, really good. And I need to point out to a brewery in close to my hometown, St. Pancras. I'm coming from the North Shore, St. Lawrence River, so St. Pancras and Bécomo.
Very cool. Cheers,
I needed to do that. Sorry.
No problem. Cheers, everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.